Okay, we're going to look at the June 2014 paper 3 version 2. We're just going to be looking at the star sheets. Now, the star sheet question, it begins at question 3. You should be familiar already with the concept of star sheets, the concept of hexadecimal, and the numbering system hexadecimal, and the concept of the colour system in HTML, where we use the amount of red, green and blue. So I'm going to be doing this in expressions. So I'm going to start off File, New, and a cascading star sheet. So now you can see it says .css. Okay, so let's have a look here. So we've got all the different sections that we need to complete. So we need the body. The background of the body should be the colour red of FFFF0. You should have spotted straight away that it's only got 1 0 here, and you should know that in hexadecimal that should be 2 zeros. So let's do this one first. So down the bottom right here I've got my new style. So I'm going to click on new style just to bring up this wizard. But I'm not actually adding my own new style. I'm going to find the body. Okay, and then in here we've got the background, and then I've got the background colour. Okay, and I'm going to click on more colours. I'm just going to choose any colour. You can see here it brings up the hexadecimal. So how much red, how much blue, how much green, and how much blue. Okay, so I'm just going to manually type it in. So I want FF of red, FF of green, and 0 0 of blue. Most of you, well, some of you would have figured out that that's actually going to be yellow. I'm going to click on OK, and you can see here body, the background colour, and I've set it. See there the hash, which represents that this number is hexadecimal. Okay, so that's the body done. The next part is the tables. Now this one's a bit tricky because you've got the borders, so it's going to be all collapsed, all solid lines, and the external line, so it's going to be the border which goes around the border, is going to be 1 pixel, and the internal grid lines are going to be 1 pixel. Now a lot of students struggle with this because you start looking at the table properties and trying to find the internal grid lines. There are no internal grid lines. What makes up the internal grid lines of a table is the cells, and the cells are actually called TD. So we need to look for that separately. So when you see internal grid lines, you need to realise it's not to do with the table, it's to do with the cells, and it's not being mentioned here. Okay? It's assumed that you'll understand that that's what you have to do. And the border colour is going to be blue, and the width is going to be 90% of the thing. So we can do this through the actual wizard. So I'll come down and go new style again, but I shall find the table. Okay, now I can start to do the actual. Okay, so the borders are all collapsed. Okay, so down on tables, border collapsed, and so I'm going to say it's going to be collapsed. Okay, all solid lines. I mean, a lot of clicking and tapping and you can find out where things are. So all solid lines. So I'm going to go to borders. Okay, border style, same for all. So I want them all to be solid. You see, I could have the right, bottom, left as different styles. And the border width is going to be 1 pixel. So if I type in 1, and then I can decide what that 1 refers to, 1 pixel, 1 point, 1 inch, 1 centimetre, etc. Okay, and the border colour is supposed to be blue with no other colour components. So I'm going to click on blue, and you see here I can check 0 0 0 0. So no red, no green, just blue. And I want it to be 90%. So okay, the width I want to be 90, but not pixels. I want it to be percentage. You can see down here it's starting to build up the code, and it gives you a little preview of it, which is quite handy. And I'm just going to click on OK. Now I need to do the internal grid lines. Now this is the only bit which is a bit tricky and you need to have known in advance. You just have to unfortunately remember it. So new style, I need to find a tag which is called TD. So underneath table, TD. So table data, which is a way of saying the cells. So I need to go to my border. I want it to be solid still. I want it to be 1 pixel, and I would like it to be blue. Okay. I don't have to do anything else on this because the width was to do with the collapsed should do as well. Okay, so now I've got my table and I've got the cells that make up my table. Okay, then the next one is heading 1, so H1. So in here, so I want it to look for Arial rounded empty bold, and if it can't find that font, or that font doesn't exist on your computer, it should look for the browser's default sans serif font. Okay, this isn't as tricky as it seems. And the colour, so the maximum blue, which is FF, and no other colour components, so you know it's going to be 0000FF. Centre alignment and 48 pixels. So again, I'm going to move over to the new style. I'm going to find heading 1, and then all my options are down here. So I want the font. I'm going to find Arial rounded bold, empty bold. Okay. Now, in order to get the sans serif in, I'm going to do comma, and then just write in sans serif. Okay, you should be familiar with the concept of sans serif and serif fonts. Okay, and the next thing I want is the colour to be the blue, so I'm going to come down here and click on blue, and I can see it already says 0000FF, so that matches the criteria. Okay, I want the size to be 48, and what do I want it to be? 48 pixels, so, and then I want it to be centre aligned, so its position, remind myself where it actually is in the block. Text, align, and center aligned. Okay, and there's my heading 1 done. Okay, now move over to heading 2, and it's going to be Arial, and if it can't find Arial, it will have the browser's default sans serif font. But this time you can see the colour is going to be a type of blue, but not FF, it's going to be A0, and then no red and no green, left align, 24 pixels, and the weight this time is going to be bold. So, new style again, find heading 2, and I want the font to be Arial, and I'm going to put a comma in. To be just sans serif. The font size is going to be 24 pixels. You can see in here the weight, that's going to be bold. And the colour, well, this time I need to choose more colours. I'm just going to click anywhere, so I bring up this hex, and it did say no red, so no red, no green. And put that to 00, and then did want FF as its amount of blue. It wanted A0, so it's going to give me a type of blue, and I want it to be left aligned. So on the block, I come down to text alignment and left, and there's my heading 2 done. Okay. Now we're having a look at P, which stands for paragraph, which or sometimes referred to as the body of the text. So if we're going to choose P, so the browser's default serif font. So this time I'm not going to specify the actual font, just whatever the browser's default is. It's going to be black, which you should know is 000000, fully justified, and 14 pixels. So new style. So, in fact, I could have just written in serif, but just to show you, and there's serif. Okay, and the font size was 14. see here black is all zeros, and the alignment in the block is fully justified, which is just justified. Okay. Now the last style sheet tag we need to do is LI, which stands for list. So a bulleted list, alignment left, and we want the bullet shape to be a square. So get a new style. We come and find LI and into list, and the list style type I would like it to be a square, and alignment in the block should be left. Okay. And that is our style sheet completed. The only thing I need to do now is just add my names to the bottom of the style sheet now and save it as an appropriate name. So I'll come back to that in a moment. So I'll do the notes first. Now you can see here that in order to help you, the computer programs use different colours. So the tags in a kind of burgundy, I suppose. The property is in red, and the data that you're setting that property is in blue. Now the computer needs to process this, and you might want to write yourself some notes that you don't want the computer to think is actual code. So /* and then you would write your notes in, for example your name, etc. And then we finish star /. And you see it goes green, and therefore the computer, when it's trying to process this, will ignore whatever's written here that's green. Okay, now we need to do file, okay, and we're going to do file save as, and this is because sometimes the program might default to say, okay, we want it to be a web page. Okay, now in the question paper it asks you to make a particular folder, J1432. Okay, and just go back, and so this is what we want to call it. Okay, so you see here is web pages. We're going to change that to be CSS files. Okay. And just to be, now we click on save. And now you can see I have saved inside my folder P32 2013. This style sheet is later going to be attached to a web page, but you should know how to do that already.